In the waning months of World War II, as the world grappled with the immense human and economic toll of the conflict, the United States found itself in a unique position. Unlike the war-torn landscapes of Europe, American industrial might remained largely unscathed, bolstered by a workforce that was both vast and diverse. Among those contributing to this industrial effort were German prisoners of war, brought to American soil as part of an extensive network of POW camps designed to supplement labor shortages across various industries. Camp Pine, located in Illinois, was one such facility, established in 1944 to house German POWs. The camp had a capacity to hold approximately 3,000 prisoners and was laid out in a series of barracks surrounded by barbed wire fencing under the watchful eye of guard units drawn from the U.S. Army Military Police. The camp was a microcosm of military discipline and organization, complete with mess halls, recreational areas, and limited educational facilities. The labor of these German POWs was directed primarily toward supporting the American war effort in non-combat roles. In Illinois, this included work in agriculture, canneries, lumber yards, railroads, grocery stores, and factories. The allocation of POW labor was meticulously recorded in transportation logs and agricultural labor contracts, ensuring that every available hand was put to productive use. In factories, such as the metalworking plant where the day's events unfolded, POWs worked alongside American civilians, subject to the same safety protocols and labor regulations. On a typical day in 1945, the metalworking plant in Illinois experienced a routine yet significant interruption. At a predetermined time, a siren blared, signaling the cessation of all machinery. This was not an emergency, but a scheduled safety check, a practice embedded in the American industrial landscape. Technicians moved swiftly through the plant, examining noise levels, checking for oil leaks, and ensuring that belt tensions were within safe limits. Workers, including the POWs, were required to sign injury logs and safety compliance sheets, documenting their adherence to safety protocols. For the German POWs, this scene was starkly different from their experiences in the munitions factories of their homeland. Records from the U.S. Army Provost Marshal General document POW testimonies that highlighted the harrowing conditions they had endured. In Germany, the relentless pace of production often continued in the face of amputations and fatalities, driven by wartime urgency and a disregard for individual well-being. Here, in the United States, they observed a system that prioritized legal liability and workforce preservation, even amid a global conflict. As part of the safety protocol, a union steward addressed the workforce, explaining the compensation models and outlining the provisions for paid leave. This was a routine briefing, yet for the POWs, it was an eye-opening moment. The American labor system, with its structured compensation and emphasis on worker welfare, was a novel concept. Documents from camp newspapers and Red Cross inspections detail how these practices were consistently applied, reflecting a societal commitment to labor rights. Within the camp itself, the POWs' basic needs were met through a combination of food systems and wage structures. Rationing policies ensured that food was distributed equitably, with POWs receiving meal coupons to access the camp's mess facilities. Wages were modest, recorded in camp ledgers, and were often supplemented by access to camp canteens, where additional goods could be purchased. These systems were carefully monitored by Red Cross inspections to ensure compliance with the Geneva Conventions. Civilian attitudes towards the POWs were varied, shaped by proximity to the war effort and personal experiences. Some communities viewed the use of POW labor as a necessary aspect of wartime production, while others harbored resentment towards the prisoners. Recorded incidents from the time reveal occasional tensions, though these were often mitigated by military oversight and public awareness campaigns aimed at reinforcing the ethical treatment of POWs. Camp discipline was maintained through a structured system of rules and consequences. Medical access was a critical component of camp life, with infirmaries staffed by doctors and nurses to address both routine and emergency health issues. Mail services allowed POWs to maintain contact with their families, subject to censorship, while educational programs facilitated by the YMCA offered opportunities for learning and personal development. As the war drew to a close, plans for the repatriation of POWs were set in motion. Directives from the War Department outlined the procedures for returning these men to their homeland, including re-education programs designed to dismantle Nazi ideologies. These programs, documented in post-war repatriation directives, emphasized democratic principles and aimed to prepare POWs for reintegration into a changed Germany. The day the German POWs witnessed the safety protocols of an American factory was more than just an interruption in their work routine. It was a moment that encapsulated the broader differences between the wartime experiences of Germany and the United States. Through meticulous record-keeping and programmatic interventions, the U.S. demonstrated a commitment to human dignity and legal responsibility, offering a glimpse into a society that valued its workforce as a cornerstone of its industrial success. Amidst the halted operations at the Illinois metalworking plant, the German POWs observed the thorough nature of the safety inspections with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Each technician moved with purpose and precision, meticulously checking the machinery for potential hazards. The inspectors wore protective gear, including helmets, gloves, and safety glasses, underscoring the seriousness with which these safety checks were conducted. The technicians used a variety of tools and instruments, each designed to detect specific issues that could compromise the safety of the workers or the integrity of the machinery. Noise levels were assessed using decibel meters, sensitive devices that could pick up even the slightest variations in sound. These readings ensured compliance with regulations designed to prevent hearing damage, a common issue in industrial settings. The inspectors also took note of oil leaks, which could pose fire risks or create hazardous work environments. They used absorbent materials to contain any spills and prevent them from spreading to other areas of the plant. Belt tension on the machines was measured with specialized gauges and adjusted as necessary, ensuring optimal performance and worker safety. The German POWs, accustomed to the relentless demands of the German war machine, found this procedural rigor astonishing. In the munitions factories back in Germany, production rarely paused, and safety hazards were often overlooked in favor of maintaining output. Injuries were an accepted byproduct of industrial work, and workers were expected to endure the harsh conditions without complaint. Here, however, the cessation of activity for safety checks indicated a fundamentally different approach to labor and human life. The American emphasis on worker safety and equipment maintenance was a revelation to the POWs, highlighting a stark contrast in values and priorities. The union steward played a pivotal role in this environment, representing the workers and safeguarding their rights. He was a seasoned labor advocate, well-versed in the intricacies of industrial safety regulations and workers' rights. The steward explained to the American laborers and the German POWs alike the importance of compliance with safety regulations, emphasizing that these measures were in place to protect their health and well-being. His presence underscored the structured nature of the American labor system, which prioritized the health and well-being of its workforce above all else. The steward outlined compensation models in detail, explaining how workers were entitled to remuneration in the event of work-related injuries. This system of accountability contrasted sharply with the German POWs' previous experiences, where such protections were virtually non-existent. In Germany, injured workers were often left to fend for themselves, with little to no support from their employers or the state. The American system, with its emphasis on legal liability and worker protection, was a revelation to the POWs, offering a glimpse into a more humane and equitable approach to labor relations. Throughout the plant, workers signed injury logs and safety compliance sheets, formalizing their acknowledgement of safety protocols and their role within this system. The documentation was meticulous, ensuring that every potential incident was recorded and addressed. This level of detail was a testament to the American emphasis on legal liability and a structured approach to industrial safety. The POWs marveled at the efficiency and thoroughness of the process, which seemed to leave no stone unturned in its quest to protect workers and maintain a safe working environment. As the day progressed, the POWs returned to Camp Pine, a facility that adhered to the Geneva Convention's standards. Located in a remote area surrounded by dense forests, the camp was designed to house hundreds of POWs, providing them with basic accommodations and amenities. Here, the POWs' daily lives were regulated to ensure their basic needs were met. Food was rationed but sufficient, consisting of simple but nutritious meals that provided the energy needed for their daily activities. The POWs received modest wages for their labor, which they could use to purchase small luxuries or save for their eventual return to Germany. The Red Cross conducted regular inspections, reinforcing the notion of humane treatment and adherence to international standards. These inspections were thorough and impartial, ensuring that the POWs were treated with dignity and respect. Within the confines of the camp, the POWs engaged in various activities designed to occupy their time and reduce tensions. They had access to educational programs where they could learn new skills or improve their language proficiency. Recreational facilities, including sports fields and a library, provided opportunities for relaxation and socialization, helping to maintain morale and prevent idleness. The process of re-education had begun, aimed at dismantling Nazi ideologies and preparing the POWs for eventual repatriation. This initiative was met with mixed reactions as some POWs embraced the opportunity to learn about democratic values and human rights, while others remained skeptical or resistant. However, the American authorities were committed to this mission, believing that it was crucial to prevent future conflicts born from authoritarian ideologies. Civilian attitudes towards the POWs were mixed. Some viewed them as necessary labor, a vital component of the American war effort amidst labor shortages. These individuals appreciated the POWs' contributions to the industries that supported the Allied forces, recognizing the practical benefits of their presence. Others, however, harbored resentment, seeing the POWs as remnants of an enemy force that had caused immense suffering. This animosity was fueled by personal losses and wartime propaganda, creating an atmosphere of suspicion and hostility. Despite these differing perspectives, the POWs continued their work, contributing to the American war effort in meaningful ways. They understood that their labor was essential to the functioning of the metalworking plant and other industries, and they took pride in their ability to perform their duties effectively. This sense of purpose helped to alleviate some of the tensions and uncertainties of their captivity, providing a measure of stability in an otherwise tumultuous time. As the war drew to a close, discussions of repatriation intensified. The POWs were to be returned to a Germany significantly altered by the war's devastation. The American authorities focused on ensuring that the POWs left with an understanding of democracy and a respect for human rights, hoping to prevent future conflicts born from authoritarian ideologies. This commitment to post-war reconstruction and reconciliation was a testament to the American belief in the transformative power of education and dialogue. The day the German POWs witnessed the American safety protocols at the metalworking plant had a profound impact. It highlighted the differences between the wartime practices of Germany and the United States, emphasizing the American commitment to worker welfare and legal accountability. These experiences marked a stark contrast to their previous lives, offering a glimpse into a system that valued human dignity even amidst the pressures of war. The POWs would carry these observations with them, shaping their understanding of the world and influencing their perceptions of post-war society. As they awaited repatriation, they reflected on the complexities of their situation and the new insights they had gained. The American approach to industrial safety and labor rights stood as a testament to the values of a nation committed to preserving life and dignity, even in the most challenging of times. The lessons learned during their time in captivity would remain with them long after they returned to Germany, serving as a reminder of the possibilities for a more just and equitable world. The metalworking plant in Illinois, where German POWs, prisoners of war, were assigned during World War II, operated under a stringent regime of safety protocols, reflecting a commitment to worker welfare that was distinctly American. This facility, humming with activity, was a microcosm of industrial America during the war, a place where the urgency of production was balanced with an unwavering focus on the well-being of its workforce. As the routine inspection unfolded, every segment of the plant's complex machinery underwent a thorough examination. Technicians, wearing safety gear that included hard hats and protective eyewear, moved systematically through the plant. They wielded handheld decibel meters, sensitive instruments that measured noise levels to ensure compliance with newly established safety standards. This meticulous approach was part of a broader strategy to prevent occupational hazards and ensure that the relentless push for productivity did not come at the expense of worker safety. In particular, the tension of the plant's numerous conveyor belts, a critical factor in preventing mechanical failures and ensuring smooth operations, was measured with specialized tools. These tools provided precise readings, allowing technicians to make necessary adjustments with confidence. This attention to detail was part of a comprehensive safety culture that prioritized operational efficiency without compromising the physical well-being of the plant's employees, including the German POWs who had been integrated into the workforce. The POWs, accustomed to the starkly different practices in German munitions factories, observed these procedures with a sense of incredulity. In the factories back home, the focus was overwhelmingly on production, often at the expense of safety. Protective measures were minimal, and the relentless drive to meet production quotas frequently overshadowed any consideration for worker welfare. Accidents were common, and the resulting injuries were often severe, exacerbated by the lack of adequate safety measures. The contrast between the two environments was starkly evident in the comprehensive injury logs maintained by the American plant. In this setting, workers were required to report even minor injuries, which were then meticulously documented. This practice not only facilitated immediate medical attention, but also contributed to a broader database that informed ongoing safety improvements and policy adjustments. At the heart of these efforts was the union steward, a pivotal figure in the American labor framework. This individual played an instrumental role in educating both American workers and the German POWs about their rights and the compensations available to them. The union steward explained the intricacies of compensation models, which included provisions for paid leave in the event of an injury. Such measures were underpinned by robust legal frameworks that prioritized workforce welfare, a notion that resonated deeply with the POWs who had endured the harsh realities of wartime labor in Germany. The contrast was a revelation, highlighting the American commitment to safeguarding worker rights and ensuring that individuals were not merely cogs in the industrial machine, but were valued participants in the nation's economic engine. Within the confines of Camp Pine, where the POWs were housed, life adhered closely to the regulations stipulated by the Geneva Conventions. The camp was subject to regular inspections by the International Red Cross, ensuring that living conditions met humanitarian standards. The POWs had access to adequate food, health care, and sanitation facilities, all of which were closely monitored for compliance. Educational programs within the camp offered courses in various subjects, including language and vocational skills, aiming to equip the POWs with knowledge beneficial for their eventual return to post-war Germany. Recreational activities were encouraged as a means to maintain morale and foster a sense of community among the POWs. Sports events, musical performances, and theatrical productions were organized, providing the POWs with a semblance of normalcy amidst the uncertainties of their situation. These activities were also instrumental in the re-education programs initiated towards the war's end. Designed to dismantle Nazi ideologies, these programs focused on promoting democratic values and fostering an understanding of individual rights and responsibilities. However, the effectiveness of such initiatives varied, with some POWs embracing the new perspectives while others remained skeptical, clinging to the ideologies they had been taught in Germany. The broader American society exhibited mixed attitudes towards the German POWs. On one hand, there was an acknowledgement of their contributions to the war effort, particularly in industries facing labor shortages due to the enlistment of American men. On the other hand, a sense of resentment lingered among certain segments of the civilian population, fueled by lingering wartime animosities and the perception of POWs as beneficiaries of resources and opportunities denied to some American citizens. This ambivalence reflected the complexities of a nation at war, grappling with its ideals of justice and fairness while confronting the harsh realities of conflict. As discussions around repatriation gained momentum, the POWs found themselves reflecting on their experiences in the United States. The exposure to American industrial practices and labor rights offered them a unique perspective on the values underpinning American society. The emphasis on legal liability and workforce preservation was a stark departure from the wartime ethos they had known, where individual welfare was often subsumed by the demands of the state. This exposure to a different set of values and practices would leave an indelible mark on the POWs, influencing their perspectives and potentially shaping their roles in post-war Germany. Upon their return to a changed Germany, these experiences would play a significant role in shaping the POW's outlook and potentially influencing broader societal changes. The post-war reconstruction of Germany necessitated a re-evaluation of industrial practices and labor relations, areas where the insights gained by the POWs in America could prove invaluable. The integration of safety protocols, structured compensation models, and a focus on worker rights were aspects that could contribute to the rebuilding of German industry on foundations that prioritized human dignity and legal responsibility. The story of the German POWs in Illinois, while a small chapter in the broader narrative of World War II, highlighted the profound impact of cultural and systemic differences in shaping individual and collective experiences. Through their labor and interactions within the American industrial framework, the POWs not only contributed to the war effort, but also carried back with them lessons that would resonate in the post-war era. The legacy of their experiences served as a testament to the enduring influence of humanistic values, even amidst the tumult of wartime exigencies. These experiences underscored the potential for intercultural exchanges to foster understanding and drive positive change, offering hope for a future in which nations could learn from one another's strengths and build a more equitable world. The day following the comprehensive safety checks at the bustling metalworking plant, the German POWs were once again loaded onto transport vehicles at Camp Pine, their temporary home in the United States. As they made their way to their designated work sites, the routine was familiar yet tinged with a lingering sense of reflection. The previous day's events had left an indelible mark on their minds, serving as a stark reminder of the vast differences between their current situation and the harsh realities they had faced in wartime Germany. The meticulous emphasis on safety and precaution at the plant highlighted a systematic approach to industrial operations that prioritized human welfare over immediate productivity gains, something they had seldom witnessed back home. The plant itself was a testament to American industrial prowess during World War II, characterized by its orderly layout and the methodical hum of machinery, now resumed with a renewed sense of purpose after the safety inspections. As the POWs entered the facility, they were greeted by the sight of towering machines and sparks flying from welding stations, a symphony of industry that underscored the nation's commitment to the war effort. The facility was meticulously divided into various sections, each dedicated to a specific aspect of metalworking, from casting molten metal into molds to machining precise components. Clear demarcations and well-defined workflows ensured an efficient flow of materials and labor, allowing workers, including the POWs, to contribute to a larger war effort that was both well-coordinated and meticulously planned. A central feature of the plant's operations was the adherence to a stringent set of safety protocols that were strictly enforced. These protocols included regular checks on equipment functionality, ensuring that every machine was operating within safe parameters. Workers were required to wear protective gear, such as helmets, gloves, and goggles, to shield themselves from potential hazards. Noise reduction measures were implemented to safeguard workers' hearing, with ear protection provided and sound-dampening materials used where possible. The presence of safety officers conducting routine inspections further emphasized the cultural shift in priorities that the POWs were witnessing. In stark contrast to German factories, where output often took precedence over safety, the American approach was one of preventative care, aiming to minimize workplace injuries and ensure a stable and healthy workforce. The union steward, a recurring figure in the POW's experience, played a critical role in explaining the nuances of labor rights and the compensation models available to workers. With a demeanor that commanded respect, the steward provided the POWs with a clear understanding of the systems in place. He outlined the mechanisms for reporting workplace injuries, detailing the procedures for accessing medical care and the financial support workers could expect during recovery periods. Paid leave, workers' compensation, and the concept of collective bargaining were discussed in detail, illustrating a framework that sought to protect workers from the financial hardships that could accompany injury or illness. The steward's explanations were factual and devoid of embellishment, yet they painted a vivid picture of a labor system that valued human dignity and welfare. Beyond the confines of the plant, the POWs' lives at Camp Pine continued to reflect a commitment to humane treatment as dictated by the Geneva Conventions. The camp was organized with a focus on maintaining order and discipline, yet it also offered opportunities for personal growth and education. Classes were available in various subjects, ranging from basic literacy and numeracy to more advanced topics such as engineering and languages. This educational component served dual purposes. It kept the POWs constructively occupied and provided them with skills that could be beneficial upon their eventual return to Germany. The camp library was a modest but cherished resource, offering books that allowed the POWs to explore new ideas and broaden their horizons. Recreation was another vital aspect of life at Camp Pine, with facilities for sports and leisure activities promoting physical health and mental well-being. The camp's administration encouraged participation in these activities, recognizing their value in maintaining morale. The POWs were allowed to engage in soccer matches, which were organized regularly, fostering a sense of camaraderie and offering a temporary respite from the monotony of camp life. These matches were spirited affairs, with teams often representing different barracks or regions of Germany, and they provided an outlet for the competitive energy that had been so central to their lives before the war. Communication with family members back in Germany was limited but facilitated through the exchange of letters. This connection to the outside world was tightly regulated, with all correspondence subject to censorship to ensure compliance with security protocols. Nonetheless, the ability to maintain contact with loved ones provided a measure of emotional support during their internment. Each letter received was a treasured piece of home, offering news and reassurance that their families were enduring the war's hardships. As the war drew closer to its end, discussions of repatriation became more frequent among the POWs. The prospect of returning to a defeated and war-torn Germany was daunting, yet it also presented opportunities for rebuilding and renewal. The experiences gained in the United States, particularly the exposure to different labor practices and democratic values, had the potential to influence their approaches to post-war reconstruction. While the ideological dismantling of Nazi beliefs was not an explicit focus, the environments and systems the POWs encountered naturally facilitated a re-evaluation of previously held assumptions. The POWs' observations of American industrial practices, with their emphasis on safety, efficiency, and worker rights, stood in contrast to their experiences in German factories. These differences were likely to shape their perspectives on acceptable labor conditions and the role of workers in industrial settings. The structured and transparent nature of the American factory system highlighted the benefits of prioritizing human capital and legal responsibility, lessons that could inform future practices in a recovering Germany. In addition to their work and educational experiences, the POWs occasionally interacted with American civilians, adding another layer to their understanding of American society. These interactions varied in tone, with some civilians expressing gratitude for the POWs' contributions to the war effort, while others remained wary or resentful due to the ongoing conflict. Nevertheless, these exchanges provided the POWs with insights into American culture and attitudes, further broadening their worldview. They encountered a society that, despite being embroiled in a global conflict, was committed to ideals of fairness and justice, principles that resonated deeply with many of the POWs. As the POWs continued to reflect on their time in the United States, they recognized the potential impact of their experiences on their future roles in post-war Germany. The exposure to a labor system that valued human dignity and safety over mere productivity was a significant takeaway, one that could influence their contributions to Germany's industrial and social restructuring. This period of internment, while challenging, offered a unique opportunity for intercultural exchange and learning, setting the stage for potential shifts in practices and attitudes that could transcend national boundaries. In conclusion, the German POWs at Camp Pine, Illinois, experienced a transformative period during their internment, marked by exposure to American industrial practices that prioritized safety, efficiency, and worker welfare. These experiences, coupled with the educational and recreational opportunities provided at the camp, offered insights into democratic values and labor rights that could inform their future contributions to post-war Germany. The interplay of industrial protocols, union advocacy, and humane treatment underscored the potential for intercultural exchanges to foster understanding and drive positive change, even amidst the challenges of war. As they looked to the future, the POWs carried with them lessons learned and a newfound appreciation for the principles that could guide their rebuilding efforts in a post-war world. As the war came to a definitive close, the transition from internment to repatriation for the German POWs at Camp Pine marked the beginning of a new chapter. The formal process of repatriating these men involved a carefully coordinated effort by American and Allied authorities, ensuring that each POW was accounted for and prepared for the return journey to their homeland. This operation was documented meticulously, with records detailing the logistics of transportation and the issuance of necessary documentation for each individual. Upon their arrival back in Germany, the POWs were met with a nation in the midst of reconstruction. The physical and social landscape had changed dramatically, presenting both challenges and opportunities for those returning from captivity. The skills and experiences gained during their time in the United States equipped them with valuable insights into industrial safety, labor rights, and organizational efficiency, concepts that were increasingly relevant in the context of rebuilding a war-torn nation. The POW's exposure to American industrial practices, characterized by their emphasis on safety and worker welfare, contributed to a broader dialogue within Germany about the future direction of its industries and labor relations. As they reintegrated into civilian life, many former POWs found themselves in positions to influence or advocate for reforms, drawing on the structured and worker-centric models they had observed across the Atlantic. This influence was particularly evident in sectors like manufacturing, where the implementation of safety protocols and labor protections began to gain traction as part of the broader post-war recovery effort. In the years that followed, the experiences of these former POWs played a role in shaping the evolving landscape of German industry and society. The integration of safety standards, the adoption of worker compensation models, and the recognition of labor rights became integral aspects of the changing industrial ethos. These changes were not solely the result of external influence, but were part of a larger movement within Germany to create a more equitable and humane society, informed by lessons learned both at home and abroad. The legacy of the German POW's time in the United States was thus multifaceted. It highlighted the potential for intercultural exchanges to drive meaningful change, even in the aftermath of conflict. Their experiences underscored the importance of prioritizing human dignity and legal responsibility in industrial and societal practices, offering a blueprint for a more just and sustainable future. As Germany moved forward, the insights gained by these former POWs during their internment at Camp Pine became part of the broader narrative of resilience and renewal, contributing to the ongoing process of healing and rebuilding in the post-war era.